Here in Latin America, mutas are more of a stylistic thing. Like Jim Rising, he goes mutas whenever he can in every matchup. That's kind of his mascot in a way. Ryu, he goes for lurkers more often than not. eGGz, when it comes to his style, he's a little more diverse. You could argue he's maybe the more cheesy of all those players, but he still has some very, very strong macro. But here we go. We are diving in to the first semifinals of the night of the tournament, and in the bottom left-hand corner of Hardwire LE, we have the Peruvian Zerg player representing the CranKy Ducklings. It is Ryu. And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Hardwire LE, we have his opponent, his oponente. We have the blue Zerg player representing Infernales Esports and Colombia. It is eGGz. And honestly, that's the best part about eGGz. You know, we just don't have enough Colombian representation. He is the best player from Colombia, has been for the longest time, is their representative. And without him, we don't really have anyone else left. Like, it's one of those things where other countries in Latin America have, maybe you could argue, over-representation. You know, you have Mexico with Juanito and Jim Rising and Cham and Paco Mike and Universe and all these players, all these guys. There's a lot of them. When it comes to Peru, we have Chaos Fate, Zions, Neo Shaggy, regular Neo, Tavo, Ryu. Like, we have a lot of Peruvians. Brazil, we have Eric, the Zerg Lord, Shakti, Yanji, Master, Turkey Dano. We've got so many players from all of these countries. But there are other countries that, like, you know, they have like their one guy. Costa Rica has Eon. Colombia has eGGz. Argentina has Egg. And if that one player suddenly becomes inactive, it's like, well, you know, it's a bit of a shame, right? Like, we have a lot of fans for these countries. We have a lot of other amateur players from those and viewers from those countries, and they want to see some representation. So it's great to see eGGz back. He's carrying that flag, and we'll see if he can carry that flag all the way to the finals. At the moment, I'm a little bit shocked. I'm a little bit shooketh, but the openers have been pretty standard at the moment. No 12 pool, no early pool at all, hatch gas pool from both players. eGGz being a little bit more economic, going for a much faster third base. Ryu, not far behind, but is behind. He will confirm this with links of his own. I don't blame him for getting a slower third base. I do think that eGGz has a bit of a more cheesy reputation. So because of that, his opponents have a little bit of fear. They can play a little bit scared sometimes. In my mind, it makes a little bit more sense that Ryu would be a little bit later and a little bit more tentative to expand, especially if his opponent was staying on two bases. Regardless, we've gotten past that stage of the game. You know, our third bases are up and running. Neither player is skipping their Baneling Nest either. That's kind of another point of divergence in ZvZ. Some players like to skip it and like to go for a faster Roach Warren and preserve their gas. Others take it for safety. Others take it to be aggressive with Ling Bane. We'll see, as Ryu does get all the way into the main base. He gets a full scout of the main, confirms no fast lair, no fast gases, nothing crazy, nothing abnormal is going on, which again is something that you do need to be aware of when you're up against eGGz. Meanwhile, both players have taken or have gotten their safety banelings back at home to make sure that they can keep their third bases alive, and no one has decided to really make a flood of lings. Everyone is still droning. Like, this is the point where one of the players could try and link flood and kill the other player's third base, but it can be really difficult to do so if their opponent has a Baneling Nest. So neither player has really pulled the trigger. They're both respecting each other, and they're both working on their roaches. +1 range is on the way for both players. Ryu does have a faster Roach Warren. Is that going to really play into this? It could. It definitely could. But again, eGGz has his own on the way as well. It is a little bit behind his opponents, but it isn't the biggest of deals. Something that's a lot more important are lair timings, and both players get them at almost the same time. So again, things are looking pretty even at the moment. For the most part, eGGz does have a bit of a worker lead, but that's about to close here as Ryu just made a massive wave of drones. They're pretty even. Pretty even and pretty passive at the moment. Again, there have been a couple of like mind games or a couple of mental battles going on, but that's kind of it so far. Did see a bit of a Baneling run by go on. One Baneling did connect, but only one Baneling, so nothing really happened. Ooh, eGGz is trying to snipe that drone, but just barely gets one. Only one. You forgot Ronaldinho, Kellezer. Yeah, look, there's a lot of players. there's a lot of players from those countries. I'm sure I forgot even more than that. Oh, God. Meanwhile, eGGz is the first to expand and take a 4th base. Ryu confirms it. Now has a choice to make. Does he want to get his own 4th to keep up? Is he going to stay on 3 bases that little bit longer? Oh, sorry, my mistake. Ryu's actually 4th is a little bit faster. I was keeping my eyes on the more fringe areas of the map, not so much the center. So, yeah, they're both just taking their 4th. Everything's looking pretty normal, except Ryu is being a little bit cheeky here. He does have pneumatized carapace, he does have overlord speed, and he is going for some drop-a-lord action. Oh my god. Meanwhile, Ryu's second upgrade is a little bit late. He did focus his gas on those overlords, but +1 carapace is still not on the way for Ryu. So eGGz is going to have a window here where he will have a pretty important upgrade advantage once they come into play. Again, it's possible that these drop lords could maybe make up for that fact, but they do get scattered by eGGz. He sees Puppy. Oh, he responds. I was like, does he know what these look like? Has he been playing enough to know what they look like? And he does. He's well aware roaches are going into the main base, but the overlords of Ryu diverge towards a 3rd instead. Regardless, mate, we got roaches all over the place. eGGz, he defends beautifully. As all that was happening, Ryu did knock down those rocks, so any kind of parade push across the map is going to work that much, is going to hit that much harder for both players, to be fair. Still trying to make these drop lords work, but at the moment they're not really getting much damage at all. What's important is that there is no consistent anti-air, so Ryu, he can always threaten with these overlords and force eGGz to keep some supply at home. At the same time, in comes Ryu. He's going to try and force his way into that 3rd base, but again, eGGz is ready for him. And in a couple of seconds, eGGz will have those upgrades kick in. Ryu, his upgrades are a little bit later, so he's going to be really careful about when he fights. He doesn't want to push in too early. There we go, +1 carapace kicking in. +1 range is right around the corner. Oh, Ryu tries to push in. I'm sure he clicked on the army. I'm sure he recognized, oh, you've got some better upgrades than I do. But he also goes for a run by. Still no drone kills. And now is the time for eGGz to push. He's got +2. He's got +1 carapace. He is maxed out. 200 supply. And he finally dealt with the drop-a-lords. You could argue that this was a mistake from Ryu. He probably shouldn't have thrown away the drop-a-lords like that, but yo, he refills and he's going again. Oh god, but again, he's going to be really careful. He's got to wait a little bit longer for his own upgrades. And there we go, they finally finish up. We're now a little bit even. Probably the big difference at the moment is that Ryu does have 1 additional Ravager, but eGGz is pushing forward and he does have the supply lead. Ryu doesn't have everything here because he's going for a counterattack instead. And sure, he kills a couple of drones, but that's not going to be enough. eGGz forces his way through across the map. Does Ryu have enough reinforcements? It doesn't look like he does. Oh, God. Ryu was trying to be a little bit too fancy with Burrow and tunneling claws and going for all these counterattacks. And counterattacks are cool, but at the end of the day, like, your main army was lacking. And now he's going to lose his drones. He's going to lose his base. Not just that, but he's going to lose the game as well. He pulls the boys. eGGz. He's going to be taking a lead in this series. Like, there's just no way. The damage has been done. Even if eGGz loses this entire army, like, he is still ahead in drones. Even though he lost a couple back at home. GG gets called. And eGGz takes game number 1. in a pretty straightforward ZvZ, to be honest. Oh, it was very macro oriented. You could see that Ryu, he was investing resources in all these counterattacks, right? He was making dropper lords, he was making burrow, he got tunneling claws as well. And this is all like investment into things that aren't your main army, you know? And these upgrades, these harassment tactics didn't really pay off. There was never really a big moment where he was able to get a lot of drone kills. It's a bit of a feels bad, man. Feels bad. And on the flip side of things, eGGz, he was just the defender. He was just the guy waiting for Ryu to push into him, just defending until... I mean, eGGz, he just defended until he was maxed out. He just defended until he was 200 supply, +2, +1, and then just A moved across the map. Was just that simple. And Ryu may be overcomplicating things a little bit too much there. Maybe. But here we go. We're going to go back to the drawing board here as we dive into game number 2, which is going to be on 2,000 atmospheres. And spawning in the top right hand corner of 2,000 atmospheres LE, we have the Peruvian Zerg player representing the CranKy Ducklings, currently down in this series, and he needs to turn things around here and now, otherwise he is out of the tournament. It is Ryu. And spawning in the bottom left hand corner of 2,000 atmospheres LE, we have the Colombian Zerg player making his return, representing Infernales Esports. It is eGGz. El Huevo himself. Oh boy. A little bit of a difference here when it comes to the opener. If you noticed, eGGz did go for an extractor trick, so he does have one additional drone as he gets his hatchery. I don't know if that was a mistake or he wanted to, like, or if it was intentional to just get an additional drone. Maybe it was a stylistic thing. But yeah, it is a little difference that did happen there. And yeah, after game number 1, I do worry for Ryu a little bit. I say a little bit because now that we're on 2,000 atmospheres, this is a bigger map. It does take longer to counterattack. You do have a lot more time to respond. I don't think the game is going to go the same way as game 1, but at the same time, from game 1, I do think that Ryu was a little bit on autopilot, especially when it came to his drop harass. Like, it looked like he just kept queuing up his drops. And he wasn't really babysitting them, so because of that, like, he was just throwing away roaches, and he wasn't really trading with anything. Like, if he even if he had just loaded up those dropper lords and just kept them in the main base and just not even landed them, like, even that would like benefit him more because it would force eGGz to keep supply at home. But yeah, we didn't even see that. Not really. He was catching. He was forcing reinforcements to stay at home, I guess, but. Yeah. I feel like the drop harass left much to be desired there. And I hope we see Ryu tighten up a little bit more as this game or as this series goes on. As once again, there's nothing too crazy going on. They both do take their third bases. The openers seem pretty standard. I imagine that Ryu is going to be a little bit more aggressive this time, as eGGz does take his melee nest and Ryu is not too far behind him. But last game we saw both players be really passive after they took their third. I imagine we're going to see one of them make a flood of wings. I hope so anyway. I'm like, yo, let's spice things up. Let's make things a little bit differently here. I know you do take a risk and you do rely a lot more on your bailing connections, on your micro, I should say. But I want to believe that Ryu has the micro. I believe he has the control. Fingers crossed. Zay's is morphing in his safety bailings at home. Both players still droning up, and once again, Ryu sneaks into the main base. 2 games in a row The scouting of Ryu has been beautiful. Again, confirming no additional gases, no early lair. Everything is normal, everything is standard. And what will he do with that information? That's what I want to know. Oh god, is he going to make more drones? God damn it. I was like, now is when you Ling Flood. Nope. He doesn't want to leave anything to chance. He wants to go into a macro game. He wants to get into Roach versus Roach. But we see a little bit of a difference here. Ryu does go for a +1 range. eGGz prioritizes +1 carapace. Oh, as he is here across the map with his Lings. Again, he hasn't really made too many of them. These are just his opening Lings, and he's trying to force a response. So far, Ryu doesn't really take the bait. And eGGz is making a decent amount of roaches. Oh my god. So eGGz is going to be the aggressor here this time. Hello. As, if you've noticed, eGGz has stopped droning up. This is scary. This could kill Ryu. Ryu, he's getting his lair up and running. He's making drones. Ryu has very limited scouting information right now. I mean, he checks the third base. This should be a tell. There are not that many drones. Hopefully he noticed with his Ling. Otherwise, what was the point of the scout? This is not a saturated base, and eGGz is making nothing but army. He stopped drones at 40 supply. At the 40 drone count. And Ryu is still droning. Oh god, here comes the army. It's coming across the map. Ryu sees now, and he needs to respond. He may even need to throw down some spines. If not, he's just going to die. There we go. Spines are being thrown down. Only 1, 2. We may need a third. Oh god. As eGGz is already here across the map. It's happening. How good are the Baneling connections gonna be? Up. The Lings, they go for a run by. They get into the natural base. Oh god, they get into the main. They get somewhere. At the same time, another queen falls. The spines are not going to finish in time. And this may be it. Oh god, it looks like the run by has finally been dealt with and the roaches are coming out for Ryu. But his spines aren't in position. He has one at his third. The one that was in between the bases already got shut down. He can afford to lose drones. Losing drones is fine, but he cannot afford to lose the roaches. He gets surrounded. And eGGz is doing it again. He just cut his drones. He just went for it. And Ryu didn't recognize it until it was too late. He didn't recognize it until it was already coming across the map, despite scouting the third. Link reinforcements are all you need. Can Ryu hold on though? Again, he still has the worker lead. He just needs to buy time. He needs time. He needs reinforcements. He's trying to get back to his spine. Ay, the boys are being pulled. This is still okay. But this is not, as every single drone is going to fall here at the third base. And even that wasn't going to be enough. As now there are just too many roaches. Ryu caught with his pants down. Again, caught droning too much. That's the hard thing about ZvZ. If you drone at the wrong time, you die. GG gets called and eGGz will take the series 2-0. Oof. GG. And this is where I have to put the onus on Ryu here, because again, I was very impressed with his scouting, and he saw the mineral line, and all you have to do is compare your opponent's mineral line with your own and be like, hold on, something's not right here. Obviously, the bigger tell is that if he had gotten into the natural base, he would have seen the roaches coming out, and the roaches being amassed, and then he would have confirmed, but the pieces didn't really come together for Ryu until it was too late, until it was already coming across the map. And he was responding to it. He was throwing down spines. He was making nothing but roaches, but at that point it was a little bit too late. Would that still have been holdable? He was just in a really rough place. Like, when you're down, when you're up, I think it was up like 17 drones or something like that. Like, it was too much. it was far too much. GG gets called. eGGz moves on to the grand finals. Oh. My heart goes out to Ryu. But at the same time, it's like, I do think that you can learn from these games just because they weren't overly cheesy games. Like eGGz was playing pretty standard and pretty straight up. Again, you could argue that his reputation does affect certain things. Like, I mean, we just saw him 12 pool against the Zerg Lord, right? Like when you're a player like that, like your opponent can be scared and play scared. But yeah, very, very solid play from eGGz. Very impressive. Very glad to see that he is back in form, at least in ZvZ. But what about the other matchups? That's what I'm really concerned about. And what about other stylistic players as well? You know, the two other big names in the top half of the bracket are Jim Rising and Paco Mike. Very different players. And Jim Rising, a very different Zerg compared to the Zerg Lord and Ryu.